can hear me, everyone else can hear me then. Is my presentation, you can see my opening screen. So
yes, I see the presentation. Mm-hmm.
All right, right on. Okay, so let's get the party started here. So I appreciate attending. Who's attending with us today? I'm with the Harper Technical Quest Territories, and this is identifying and moving your internal process to external process, and we'll cover what that really means here in a little while. My background is I've been in this printing industry for about 36 years now. It's going on a long time. I've been with Harper Corporation for about 4 years, and where this all comes from is I'm a Lean Six Sigma black belt, so this is my passion. I love doing this stuff, so this is why I get to choose these kind of applications. So the big picture. There's a 30,000 foot perspective, so we're not trying to get into solid problem solving. We just want to get your creative juices going, right? This is a huge topic. We're going to take this off in small bites. It's kind of like eating an elephant. You can only do it one bite at a time. So it's like I said, we got to look at this high level. And so when you go back and we finish with this, you want to be able to walk away and go look at your processes and see and start seeing what's out there in your own processes. You may be doing things already. There might be some details you can grab that you can improve on as well. And you start setting goals you want to get. So the big picture of this is we want to, one, reduce our make-ready time. It's not press as an improver as an example, not searching for tools, not mounting plates beforehand. We want to mount plates beforehand. We want to reduce our downtime. So don't rush your make ready and then shortfall your and then end up with downtime during your run. So we got things to watch out with that. The other thing we want to do is simplify our process in doing this. And the other big picture, the biggest thing that comes out of this is accurate scheduling. Tasks are done in your internal processes. Basically, when you hit go on your make ready and you start doing things you could have done ahead of time, now it blows up your make ready time, and if you rush your make ready time and you end up with more downtime, it blows up your schedule. And if you're ever been a scheduler, that's frustrating to get out. So it pushes jobs out and rearranges schedule, and especially if you find problems in your make ready. You could have identified ahead of time. Why should I do this? Well, our customers don't pay for downtime. They don't care. Or excessive make readies. That's what customers are paying for. They pay for a product. How you get there is up to you. So we got to ask ourselves, so what's an internal process? You're asking yourself, the title of our presentation here. What is an internal process? Step within a process is performed after the task has begun, right? So when we go, this is what we're doing. This is the work we're doing at the time. So the external process, well, let's talk about this real quick. Go back. Mission critical time, and we're doing our internal processes. This is where, at this point, we're taking on cost. And this is critical at a time where the shortfalls or failures get expensive. If we don't identify our problems ahead of time while it's an internal process, we identify it becomes very expensive. So external processes is a step prior to the task starting. Problems are identified offline prior to production. That's what we want. We want to be able to see our problems before they start. Identified scheduling can be proactive rather than reactive to problems. Let's say we got a bad plate. A bad plate's identified before we start our process. Just an inspection step. Or if we can't match a color on press, but ahead of time, or if we don't have an analox that we needed, we find out one of our analoxes are damaged when we're trying to put in the press, and then we don't have a backup. Whatever that case may be, we have to pull a job. Avoid having to pull that job. So We all know time is money. A step within the process performed after the test is begun. A few examples of this, like I mentioned, color matching. Color matching is big. Having to match or tone colors on press. Mounting plates on press side, more common. It is more common in narrow web. Our wide web folks are pretty much doing this ahead of time, but there are some out there still mounting when they start the make ready. Looking for tools. This is a 5S step you could do, in your process, and moving myself out. You're not looking for the tool while you're doing it. You got to do it. You got it right there where you need it. If you have mag dies, this is a narrow web deal. Getting those mounted ahead of time. Hunting down substrates also can be downtime for hand short on long make ready. So planning is there, but if you're looking for your substrates or fetching your substrates, after you hit make ready, you're absorbing some money there. Ink chambers. Ink chambers, if you haven't built your ink chambers or you got bad ink chambers or reuse them, anything that has to do with them, if those aren't ready to go, that becomes an internal process. Your ink. So bad, wrong ink, poor quality, having to get into the press. Maintenance issues. This includes actually PM. If we're not doing our PM, then our maintenance and our press goes down. Maintenance becomes now an internal process that you've hit go. Our schedule is counting on us to hit our targets, but now we got a maintenance problem. So if we're skipping our PMs to get through because we got production to do, well, it's either pay now or pay later, and oftentimes it costs more to pay later. So but when that if you do your PMs, you avoid those problems. You can better avoid those problems. Doctor blades. Due to ink type, change application, narrow webs run, application like in narrow web runs where UV and UV water base are used in the same press. So there's times that you may have to swap from a UV blade to a water-based blade, because of the thickness of it if you're trying to avoid some spitting, which we do have a new solution for, by the way, quick plug. Incorrect damage or weak volumes on your analoxes. This is big for, we're Harper, right? So we got to talk about analoxes. So incorrect damage, weak volumes. Misidentified rolls. Volumes are accurately marked. Make sure your rolls are marked for what they are so you don't grab wrong analogs. Or your actual volumes are stamped on analogs rather than specified volume. Damage in print areas, new jobs, where previous damage was not in the print area. So you may have an analogs in the press and we'll reuse this, and you may have a score line that avoided the print on the previous job, but then your new one has it. It's right in the print area. Worn analogs may get away with it on lighter colors, but rich colors may come up a little bit weak. So if you're running maybe a light color, a yellow or something in an analog that's slightly worn, it looks okay, but then you put in some strong color, then it might show up weak if you're trying to reuse an analog. Analogs cleaning. Analogs rolls are not cleaned and verified prior to going in the press. If you take a dirty analogs and you put it in your press and you find out it's dirty, well, now you're cleaning analogs while you're on the make ready. So again, now it's an internal process. We got to move those things out of there. That's why I talked about analogs, right? So a step that's done prior to the test starting. This is your external process. And again, time is money, right? So things we can do to move those things out. Ink correlation. Ink correlation is where it's more like an analogs correlation, but when we're trying to, if you standardize your analogs, you correlate those standards to your ink room, then you can proof and get your colors pretty darn close prior to them going to press, so you're not using that press as a very expensive proofer. Ensuring your inks are matched on proofing rolls that correlate to your press and analogs. Using a press match color is likely the most expensive waste in the press room. Analog standardization is critical to this. We can help you with that. Mounting plates. There's still shops out there where persons are mounting the press plate side. You get an envelope and then you start this job, you hit make ready, and you're mounting your plates. Well, if you do those ahead of time, you can probably, if you got someone to do that for you and move that external, the cost of, you know, if you look at your burn rate and everything else, probably justify a cost of having someone do that for you. Or works, you know, multitask someone to do that as a make-ready person. 5Sing your tools. Again, we mentioned this earlier, is if we did a couple projects before where an operator is looking for a tool, and we actually timed it. This sometimes with 5 to 10 minutes just looking for a tool. You do that multiple times or extrapolate that out over years. I mean, or over a year, that can get expensive. But idea of 5Sing your tools, make sure they're there, and then also putting tools where you need them, at least safely where you need them. Staging jobs. Most of you guys do this. This is not uncommon. This isn't new. But when we stage the jobs, we got to make sure they're accurate. Because oftentimes we're staging, we're doing this, but we got to make sure everything's there what we need. And there's quality steps we look at when we're staging this job. So if I got a guy that's just mounting plates and we're getting the ink out there, even though everything's getting staged to press, if the ink is inaccurate or the plates are damaged or it's on the wrong repeat or whatever the case may be, you got to make sure those accurate steps. So when we're job staging, let's make sure there's a checklist or something we could do that the person is looking at. They can make sure that those processes aren't going to be trying to move right back to an internal process. Ink chamber prep, make sure those are ready to go ahead of time. Analyze, inspection, verification. Now this is interesting. We can do this. We have go, no-go processes we can do with our analyze inspection. If you have a cleaning process in your shop, you can let us look at that and help you out and see if we can improve upon that. But if you got one in the shop, but if you're cleaning and analyzing, how do you verify that it got cleaned? Is it through a microdynamics 3D QC in-house? Those are pretty expensive. Not very many people have them. But there's also scopes, you know, 400 magnification scopes you can look at, which is attribute data, which is go, no go. This analyze is good to go, put in the press. And visual inspection on, we can help you educate you on what visual inspection is. What's a score line look like versus, you know, something else. So we got to make sure your analyzers are in good condition. We can help our techs, myself, and whatnot, can come in and help you look at your analyzers and make sure that, you know, what's good and what's bad. If you need an audit, we can do that as well. Visual management. It's kind of what I talked about just a minute ago. Let's make sure that analyzers or anything else, your plate sleeves, your inks, visual management in color coding, sorting with your inputs. These are all things you can do externally just to make things move along a lot faster. So how do I identify my internal and external processes? Observation is the key to identifying this. Internal and externals. You got to observe, document multiple make-readies and runs. Is the downtime make-ready time being identified accurately? So is there a way to document? If not, create one. If it's not tracked, it's not being managed, and profits are slipped through the cracks. So careful of the Hawthorne effect when you're observing as well. If you haven't heard of the Hawthorne effect, it refers to the inclination of people to work harder or perform better when they're being observed as part of an experiment. So if you're working and your boss is looking at you or you know whatnot, you tend to work a little bit better because your boss. And so there's ways around it, but there's got to be a trust factor there that you're not there just to if you're stop watching them or whatnot, that you're not going after. You're not trying to get them in trouble. You're just trying to improve the process. So measure and analyze your data. Make a plan, prioritize and make a plan, and try not to fix everything at once. If you try to fix everything at once, you don't know what you fixed. So if you fix a whole bunch of things at once, what would have the biggest impact on it? And then you measure. So measuring on this is like I said before, measuring your data, prioritizing plan, try not to fix everything. What's my data telling me? Gather the data. So one thing we want to make sure is what's being reported to you accurate? So are your make ready times really your make ready times when you're measuring them? That also helps with your scheduling. So observe. We want to watch and document each step process owners are making. As third person observing, this is what we have to do. And it's the process owners in the trees often can't see the forest through the trees when he's working. For them to remember what they did and go back and document is inaccurate at best. For them to stop and document for the time for each step is inefficient. So as an observer, that's what you're doing. You're letting them do their job in a natural state while you document the time it takes them to do it. As if I go do a task and then say, okay, I think that took me 5 minutes. More than likely it took 10, 15, right? The other thing is if I go do a task and come back report it, go do a task, come back report it, that's inefficient, like I mentioned before. So we want to, for the observer, tracking movement through diagrams to give perspective of waste of movement. Spaghetti diagrams work well for this, like this one. They help you visualize what's going on in the process. Four observers were used to observe 4 people. So if you got multiple people working on a press, you need multiple observers watching each person. And then, we're monitoring where they're going, what they're doing. This is an actual one from a project I've done. And you can see they're everywhere. It's crazy. And how far are they going and how long does it take for each movement to look? Now, look at the person in green, which is the most predominant, they're all over the place, and this is during a make ready. So you see kind of in the lower areas, at the bottom parts where they're at the press, going from deck to deck, but they're all over the place, and all that's while they're in make ready. That should be reduced significant. I mean, that reduce that movement, move that out. So after you observe and document your process, compile and analyze your data. What's it telling you? Is your historical data accurate? This is what I mentioned before. If my operators are telling me my make readies are 30 minutes or 40 minutes and they're really an hour and a half, we're not scheduling properly either. What are the hidden factories in your process? You don't know what a hidden factory is. It's a set of activities in the process that result in reduction of quality or efficiencies of a business process or manufacturing department that's not known managers or others seeking to improve the process. So it's things that are being done that's kind of like your tribal knowledge stuff. It's being done but never reported. That's your hidden factories. You want to keep an eye out for those as well, because those are being done internal while you're doing a make ready. And then if it is, and it's something that you need in your process, build it into your natural process and see if you can externalize it. Then after you do all that, if that wasn't enough, again, we're doing high level, so we're going to kind of go through this to get you looking for these some ideas and things you can do in your own shop. Ideas are prioritizing. So this one is a Pareto chart of downtime study over 5 runs and what was causing them. So as you can see, this kind of using a Pareto chart gives you your bogeys. It helps you prioritize what you're looking for and your biggest savings opportunities. So in this example, 20% of the downtime in this was from color matching on press. Well, we can reduce that. That's and we already covered how we can do that. In our next stage 2 of this presentation, we'll dive into that a little bit deeper actually, because that is one of the number 1 deals that printers faces, color matching at press. So one of the things I like to do, I like to stack things up and do the math. Okay, so one thing we do is when you can take all your steps in your press. So this is a very loose example because I want to basically fit it on one slide. So a very loose example of your process steps is this is a job make ready for last good product to first good product. That's what we're looking at. This example is 240 minutes. Simply by moving 2 internal process steps, mounting plates and color matching. So if I move out mounting plates, I'm doing that on press. Then I move on my color matching. Natural progression is my downtime naturally reduces, so your stack falls, Your new downtime is now reduced to, if I stack this out, 177 minutes from 240, so a 26% reduction just by moving two things out. This is what I talked about. This is why I named it moving your internal process to external process. So your internal process is taking things that you're doing, and that's your total make rate. Last good to first good. And then you take all these steps out, and you get a natural reduction in your downtime. So kind of a summary on this, and again, we're going to go deeper on the next presentation on this. We want to get your creative juices. I'd like to see everyone get. I'm not going to see it, but I'd like to know that everyone's getting on their production floor and just looking. What can we do this? And it's just subtle. What's being done while they're doing a make ready, and just observe. Management by walking around. I guess you can do. Some people call it. So the key is to observe and document the process. In my summary. Compared to your historical data, make sure your data is accurate, and that's important too. And that's going to be important to your schedule. Observe multiple events if needed. So if you don't think you got a good event, or you feel that some Hawthorne effect happened, they did a real good job on this make ready, and then you can compare it to your historical, and they did an amazing job. It's like the best make ready ever. It's because you're probably watching. You may want to look at a few of them make readies. Measure and analyze your observation data, determine which process can be moved internal and external. Test by redoing the observation under the new process. So that's one of the things we're going to get in stage 2 of this presentation is go back and do it again. And you're going to probably do this a few times as you go through this process. How can you do it better and better and better and improve upon it? And the most important thing I can have on here, which I don't have on the slide and I meant to put it on here, is don't do it yourself. You got to get the people, I call them the process owners. These are your people that are doing the steps, doing the job. This is your operators. This is your make-ready guy. This is your plate mounter. This is your ink tech. Get these people involved and find out what's reality. You want to move a process out. Just don't throw that out, a top-down type management thing. Get their input. There may be a reason you're doing it the way you're doing it. But also is getting buy-in, because if you find way, they may have great ways. If your process owners have great ways of figuring out how to do this better. They own it. This is their baby. And they're in it all day long. And they may have had ideas the whole time to do it. So put together a team, do the process, and those people that aren't working to make ready can also help maybe observe and put eyes on it. And then use a stopwatch at all times to make sure you're getting accurate data. Again, very high level. This is going to be continued into a step 2 process, into a step 2 presentation that we're going to dive in on how do we do it. So your homework on this one until the next one is going to be go out and look at your process and what's going on, and then we'll start looking at how we do this. And I want to thank you. We'll open up for questions because I'm sure there's a ton of them.
Any questions from anyone in the audience? Okay, well, if not, you can reach Greg Horney via email, which is greg.horney@harpercorporation.com. He'll be glad to respond and reply back to any questions you may have. If not, we look forward to continuing this and delving deeper into how to overcome some of these limitations that Greg talked about on our next podcast. And if there are no questions, we'll end this webinar. And again, we appreciate your business. We appreciate you being here. And I hope this is something that was very educational to you today. Thank you. Greg, any last remarks?
No. If you have any questions, again, feel free. My contact information. A lot of you have my contact information. If not, you can reach out to Harper. My email address, I should put on there, is my name, greg.horney@harpercorporation.com. So I apologize for not having that on my slide, but feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions. If you want to reach out to me privately as well.
Okay, well, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next month.